Hello everyone, it's Takasubadachi here, and for today, welcome back to another Nintendo-related discussion topic for today's video. And for today's topic we're about to discuss for today is genuinely a sad one, because as you might be aware, I've been, telling you all this from time to time from the community post that, as of right now, Nintendo will be closing the Nintendo eShops for both Wii U and 3DS at around March 27th, 2023. That means you only got around 6 more days to get the games you want from those two specific eShops as the time as I'm recording this video. It's definitely a shame that Nintendo from last year, when they announced that they will be officially closing those eShops right after a few years, removing the whole DSi shops and especially the Wii shop from 2019. It was definitely a sad thing, but now with the 3DS and Wii U eShops now closing, there's definitely going to be a lot of games that are going to be either rare or just hard to find nowadays. So I decided to make a video, because why not, on talking about all the games I will recommend to get in before it closes in around a week on next Monday. And keep in mind though, there will be some games, and me mentioning that I never played them because I'm not that much of a gamer back then, and plus I might not ever to get those games ever again. Plus, even if that's the case, there's just the only way you can ever get it is by getting on either GameStop, Amazon, or eBay. Maybe any of those kinds of sites that pretty much sells those games that are either rare. But yeah, let's just go through all the games that contains both 3DS and Wii U games, because I'll go through a lot of those games, and then the end of it, it'll just talk about the DLC and all. And one last thing I have to mention, I know many are gonna pirate Nintendo at this point, and I do not support or condone any piracy in the channel, not at all. It's just that there has to be some other way other than to pirate. But I can understand why some fans have to do it, because this is just a random bad decision that Nintendo is making as of right now. So, but anyways, enough of me talking. Let's go through all the games that I recommend to get in before the eShop closes. Our first title on this list is Xenoblade Chronicles X. As a Xenoblade fan myself, I highly doubt we'll ever get this game ever ported to the Wii U, or the Switch, I mean. Yeah, we do get to see Xenoblade Chronicles X, support in the Xenoblade 2 DLC, thankfully, but even if that's the case, I know many fans are begging Monolith Soft and Nintendo to basically port the, Xenoblade X onto the Switch. I can totally get that. They've done this with Xenoblade Chronicles 1, and I kind of would not expect the same thing for X. That's really because that Xenoblade Chronicles X kind of acts a bit more differently than the 3 games we've gotten over the past few years. But even so, this is pretty much the only Xenoblade game that is on the Wii U, and I highly recommend it if you are a huge Xenoblade fan and are also a fan of MMORPGs. Next up is Kid Icarus Uprising for the 3DS. Now this is exclusive to the 3DS, and with Kid Icarus Uprising, pretty much not getting any sort of new game as of right now. I do want to see whether or not Nintendo is ever going to, advertise more of Kid Icarus. Even if that's the case, Uprising is a game that basically saved the franchise, and there's still a fan base to this very day that wants either a remaster or a remake of Kid Icarus Uprising on the Switch, and Sakurai is pretty interested in it, since he was the one that, revived this franchise after all. Plus, if you're a fan of third-person RPGs and want to personally try the Kid Icarus franchise, the Kid Icarus game yourself, as I am planning to get it in some point in the future, I haven't just found a good copy of it, and that's another thing I have to mention. It's honestly kind of hard to find any more copies from time to time, given how, there's a lot of Switch games, and the 3DS and Wii U ones are just kind of, non-existent anymore. Well, there's just some that are non-existent, but there are definitely a lot that are, fully non-existent. But even so, back to this, Kid Icarus Uprising, if you love Pit, if you're wanting to get introduced to the series, then this is only their best bet right now. Next up is Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD for the Legend of Zelda series. With Skyward Sword HD coming out back in 2021, I saw many expecting Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD to come out at some point as a Switch port. As of right now, we have not gotten any news or announcement about it so far, given that Tears of the Kingdom is coming out in about a couple months. But even if it's Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD, I heard that some of them are kind of exclusive to the Wii U as digital. Well, not really, but it's basically $100 nowadays in eBay, so my best bet is that if you want to get this game, if you're a fan of Zelda and are trying to prepare yourself for Tears of the Kingdom, I definitely am, then yeah, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, that's definitely one of them. Next up is Metroid Prime Trilogy. Now, while we did get Metroid Prime remastered last month on the Nintendo Switch, which was definitely a genuine surprise, the trilogy for the first and for the second and third game has not released yet, and the fourth game is basically non-existent to me at this point. I feel like, given the Wii U is not going to be, happening anymore, Metroid Prime Trilogy, if you want to get this game, before Nintendo decide to port both Metroid Prime 2 and 3 onto the Switch, then this is only your best bet if you want to have that true trilogy experience. And there's some nice preparations before Metroid Prime 4 is ever going to happen in the future. Next up are a bunch of 3DS titles, that being the Mario and Luigi RPG series, going from Mario and Luigi's, partners in time. There's also a Superstar Saga, Bowser's Inside Story, and basically their 3DS ports as well. Yes, excluding Partners in Time, obviously. And yes, I am including Inside Story plus, Bowser Jr.'s Journey, because even though that's one of the middest games in the Mario and Luigi RPG series, you can honestly admit that they still can be a little bit fun at times. Plus, given that the Mario and Luigi series is, pretty much dead at this point. I wouldn't say dead thanks to Superstar Saga now being on the Switch Online, but even if that's the case, this is your only best bet to ever re-experience that sort of thing ever again. And that also includes Paper Jam, because, Paper Jam is also a mid-game, but that's just something I could recommend if you're a fan of the Mario and Luigi series. And if you want it back, I certainly would. Alrighty, we're going to go on a bit of a Fire Emblem spree here. There's only a few games I have to mention. That, my friend, being Fire Emblem Awakening, which is basically the series the installment that basically saved the franchise, because without Awakening, then, yeah, you would never see Fire Emblem at all existing at this point. And not only that, also Fire Emblem Fates. Now, the thing about Fire Emblem Fates, though, is that earlier this month, there was something that they did delete. So I did mention that they're going to be closing a lot. Obviously, that's just the point of the video. That also means you can't get any more of the DLC as well. And it's really going to be difficult for those who can't really get the game, for those who can't get the DLC at all. But that cannot be the same for Fire Emblem Fates, because the DLC being Revelations, which is a path that you can get for the true ending. Here's the problem, though. With that one, that means you have to get the Collector's Edition, or the special edition of this, in order to get Fire Emblem Fates and its DLC all together. That is the only way you can ever get it without ever trying to get the game physically. So, and currently right now, it is pretty expensive on eBay, and it's just genuinely hard to get. So yeah, Fire Emblem Awakening is a game that basically saved the franchise, and while Fire Emblem Fates gets a lot of, many criticisms and all, it's the only way you can ever get that third story mode with Revelations and all. So yeah, get the Collector's Edition. And then not only that, Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, which I assume is like a remake of the original Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light back in the 90s. This was a Wii U exclusive right now, and if you just want to play, and yeah, while we did get the original first Fire Emblem game localized for the Nintendo Switch a couple years back, that only lasted until March of 2021, like they did with 3D All-Stars. So I can't really say the same thing for Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon. So if you just want to try and re-experience the very first Fire Emblem, then this is only your best bet right now. Next up is Splatoon. Now, if you're a fan of the Splatoon series, and yeah, I know, Nintendo, this is one of Nintendo's most profitable franchises as of currently, profitable modern franchises in Nintendo's lineup. The thing about it, though, is that the first Splatoon is really not going to be a thing anymore, given that the Inkopolis DLC has now been out for the third Splatoon game, and with this one, this could basically be like another golden age of Nintendo, where they just don't sell the first ever Splatoon game. I already have it installed digitally on my Wii U with the Wii U Deluxe Edition. So my best bet is that if you want to try and complete the whole Splatoon lineup, then this is another one I can recommend. Now we're gonna go off a bit from some first parties and talk a bit about some third parties. This one being Shin Megami Tensei. Now I couldn't really find the exact game. All I know is that it was a Shin Megami Tensei game. And why exactly am I mentioning this randomly? Well, that's because if you live in the UK, then you can't get this game physically. No, there's basically no physical copy outside of the UK. And with that one, and if it pretty much is closed, then you can't get this game digitally. So yeah, your best bet is to get the game physically if you live outside of UK. So yeah, I just had to mention Shin Megami Tensei in case anyone wants to know about it. Next up is a classic game from Nintendo that sadly won't be here anymore. Duck Hunt. Nowadays, Duck Hunt is really hard to find. Like, I mean, obviously, it's the NES. It's a really difficult console to get nowadays, especially if you're trying to get the classic edition. And Duck Hunt is really one of them. Yeah, you don't have the Zapper anymore, but even if so, the Wii U is the only ever chance you can ever play the original Duck Hunt game on, on modern consoles. And pretty much now, getting this game, is honestly difficult to get. Like, there's a few games that will be really, really hard to get in terms of sales and on shopping sites from the fact that it's really hard to go trust scalpers now. Next up is another digital exclusive game. This one I think is on the 3DS, being Pokemon Picross. I actually wanted this game back then, but I decided not to because, I'm not that much of a, person. I'm not much of a person who's into puzzles at times. But with Pokemon Picross, this is another Pokemon title that is, exclusive to the 3DS and all. And, if you're a fan of Pokemon, and yeah, this is one of them. Next up, we're back to another couple of, third-party stuffs. Now, starting off with Ace Attorney, Dual Destinies. I have planned to play the Ace Attorney series at some point in the future, but with this one, I wasn't too sure whether or not the game is digital. I did check, it is digital. I couldn't find a physical copy, so this is just another type of digital game that you cannot get ever again. And if you want to complete your Ace Attorney collection, if you're a completionist, then yeah, I can totally see you getting this. And while you're at it, let's also put another 3DS title, which is something that I honestly never thought I would say, being Xenoblade Chronicles 3D on the new Nintendo 3DS. Yeah, nowadays when you see the quality and the cutscenes, they are very outdated, and the graphics are really, really bad. But even if so, it still runs pretty well on the new 3DS. I never owned one myself, but from what I've seen, you can tell that that they did try their best with it, and plus it did help the Xenoblade franchise a little bit with its sales. So that's definitely one of them. And for now, we're going to talk about a few 3DS games. Xenoblade Chronicles 3D. Like I said, if you're a completionist, you can get this. And if you're a Xenoblade fan, like I mentioned with Xenoblade X, then I guess you can kind of buy this one if you're interested and see how the quality looks. And not only that, another new 3DS title would also be Fire Emblem Warriors. Then also Majora's Mask, which, yes, did release 3DS on the regular 3DS, but also released for the new Nintendo 3DS. That can also be the same thing for more Zelda stuff, like Ocarina of Time 3D, and then last but not least, Minecraft on the new 3DS. Yeah, that's right, Minecraft was on here, and let's be honest, I mean, if you're a Minecraft fan, then go for it. I did see some opinions and saying that the controls and the quality is really janky as hell, so I can definitely see some fans getting this, but even if so, Minecraft on the 3DS, I mean, hey, includes some 7 packs and some skins, so that would be cool in my opinion. And now back to Professor Layton. We got Professor Layton and Phoenix Wright. These two, having both of these games in a crossover is definitely cool. And not only that, Professor Layton is, returning this year for the Nintendo Switch, so that's really cool in my opinion. Like I said, I personally never played the Ace Attorney series. I am planning to get it at some point in the future. But if you're a fan of a lot of, mystery and detective work and all, and if you're a fan of, just the fun action, then Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright, two detectives all in a crossover, is a genuine good idea that I highly recommend getting. Next up is kind of an obscure installment, that being Dylan's, Dylan. If you might know this character, you might know him from his assist trophy appearance in Smash Bros. And all. But yeah, I don't personally know this game, but I don't really know if this game also has a physical copy, so I assume this is digital, and yeah, I just, get Dylan or something. Now, this is something I see many mentioning, and that is Pushmo. Pushmo is a game that pretty much helped the franchise a lot. That pretty much helped the Wii U and 3DS during its era, and with Pushmo now being gone, it's really going to be sad for a lot of fans for not seeing this sort of game anymore. And I've seen a lot of Nintendo gamers who own this game on the 3DS, and you can tell how much Pushmo made a pretty interesting impact during its era of the 3DS and Wii U. Next up is Dr. Luigi, a game that is to commemorate one of the few games that was shown during the year of Luigi a decade ago. And this is not only this is a digital only copy. And if you want to support my favorite character Luigi with this one, then yeah, go for it. Dr. Luigi, while it is basically the same formula as Dr. Mario, it does have some nice little interesting gimmicks in there that kind of makes the game a little bit more unique. Next up, while it's a really bad in mid-game, Mario vs. Donkey Kong tipped in stars. I did own this game back in my Wii U and then the 3DS and all, and once I got it, I don't think I'll ever get it again. And, you know, and not only that, this game only has like a physical copy in Japan, and I highly doubt they're ever going to localize it outside of it, so getting this is the only way you can ever do it. It's both on the 3DS and the Wii U, so this is your only best bet. Plus, this is just the only sense of Donkey Kong Mario versus Donkey Kong at some point that we'll just never ever get to see again. Now back for some third parties, we got Dragon Quest VII, Fragments of the Forgotten Past, and then Dragon Quest VIII, Journey of the Cursed King. These are the two most popular 3DS games that was for the Dragon Quest franchise, and we gotta remember, the Dragon Quest series isn't really as popular as much in the West as in Japan, which, you know, Dragon Quest gets celebrated a lot like it's Christmas, but with Dragon Quest VII and VIII, these two are pretty difficult games to get, and they are pretty rare with that one. And not only that, with Dragon Quest 12 coming out, I guess it's a good bet to have both Dragon Quest 8 and 7 into your collection. Even though these are games that are pretty difficult to get, I do think they are worth the try, as I did hear how good these games are. Especially Journey of the Cursed King. I kind of wanted it back then, but decided not to because I just had better things to do in my life. Next up are the Yokai Watch games. Sadly, the Yokai Watch franchise doesn't really get as much love anymore because ever since the third game came out for the 3DS a few years back, we just never get to see any more Yokai Watch related things, such as Yokai Watch 4 not ever releasing outside Japan as it wasn't popular in the West. And it's a sad thing because I remember seeing the ads for it and the anime advertisement as well for Yokai Watch, so it's just kind of weird to see this just go away. And, you know, if you want to try and support this franchise, yeah, it may seem like a Pokemon or Digimon look and rip-off and all, when in reality, I did try it out. It is genuinely fun. I do hope the franchise gets a lot more support in the future. Plus, Level 5 is making a huge comeback a lot thanks to their latest presentation, and the games they have a lot for the Switch as well, as, you know, including Professor Layton. Next up are two unique games that I'm just never going to see again, and that's pretty much the fact of Nintendo Badge Arcade and then, you know, Rusty's Baseball, and Rusty's Deals Baseball. Here's the thing about these two. These are one of the most unique games on the 3DS, because for Nintendo Badge Arcade, you can basically purchase some things, and then you get the badges, and then after that, you add it and pin it as part of your 3DS menu. That was really a cool thing. And as for Rusty's game, basically, if you hit the game right, it can actually cut off the prices on real life prices for 3DS games. These are two unique things that I am surprised Nintendo has never done again, especially from the fact of how very bland the Switch's menu is right now. And, you know, I really wanted to see if Nintendo's ever going to make some sort of game like this, but like Rusty ever again, but I don't really think that's ever going to happen in the future. Alrighty, and last but not least, before we get to some of the DLC, our two most major titles that I feel like many are going to be missing a lot. That being the Pokemon titles, and for like the original, you know, red, blue, and green, you know, red, blue, and yellow, especially with generations 1 and 2, 1 and 3, and then after that, the Virtual Console. We all can agree that the Virtual Consoles is one of the best ever titles that and ideas Nintendo has ever given us. And with the Switch Online being a thing, it felt like Nintendo saw this and just like, just be like, we don't have, we don't have any more use of it, so let's just remove it. Plus, there are just games that aren't even on the Switch online yet, like Mario RPG. There's not Mario Party 3 yet. I'm not sure Mario Party 3 is released yet. And then there's just even some games that are also exclusive to Japan as well, so that's just something, really. Oh yeah, and especially Harvest Moon, along with Mario Advance 4, Mario Bros. 3. There's just a lot of virtual console games, and the Pokemon titles that you may never ever get again. Plus, I'm still waiting for Game Freak and the Pokemon Company to just add the first 3 generation Pokemon titles on the Switch Online. Alrighty, and to end this off, we're gonna talk about a few DLCs. We got the Smash 4 DLC if you want to collect all the seven DLC characters from Mewtwo, Lucas, Roy, Cloud, Ryu, Corrin, and Bayonetta. And if you just want to get all the stages in the music track, now's your only chance. I don't think I'll ever get them back because I made a mistake on deleting the data for Smash 4. Then and like I mentioned earlier, Fire Emblem Revelations. The only way you can ever get this again is with the collector's edition. Then if you are a fan of the Sonic Team Sonic and Sega All-Star Race and Transform game, then get this one, because Metal Sonic is only exclusive to the 3DS title. Well, no, not exactly. I'm saying that Metal Sonic is a purchasable DLC that you cannot get in the 3DS version unless you have a specific code for it. And then last but not least, some more Sonic stuff, being Sonic Lost Worlds DLC, going from the crossovers of Legend of Zelda, Yoshi, and even Nights into Dreams, another Sega type related content that they have aside from Sonic. Those are all the things I have to mention for the 3DS and Wii U games. These are all the games I have recommended, and not only that, IGN actually has a full list of things, and and these are pretty much the games that I got from the list as you saw here. So I will be linking this down below if you're curious about this. Now, is it really sad to see, the 3DS and Wii U eShops closing now? Yeah, absolutely. And even though the Switch is still great in terms of their eShop, it just will never hit the same again for like the Wii U and 3DS did, like 3DS did with their own shops when they had fun music, fun getting, dynamics, how very fun and, goofy the eShop looks, and especially the music. I just recently heard the eShop's, Switch music that was unused, and I was genuinely disappointed from the fact how Nintendo just removed it. But that's really about it. Like I mentioned from the beginning, don't try and do piracy. I can understand why you're doing this, but that just doesn't really help it at all, because for all we know, Nintendo's probably gonna come after you at this point. And get these games as soon as possible. As I'm recording this, you got about 6 more days until the eShop fully closes, and once it closes, the only one we have left for now is the Nintendo Switch. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down below about this. Are you all guys sad that the 3DS and Wii U eShops will be closing forever? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below about this. And so with that, leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell for more videos, follow my Twitter, and I'll see you guys next time. And remember this, once a legend, always a legend.